Hello and welcome to Talk a Good Game as match preview. West Ham United against Leicester City. In the Premier League, it's hot up at the top, it's hot up at the bottom, but nobody seems to want to finish seventh. And these two teams are those two teams that keep chucking away opportunities. As last weekend, Leicester City got beat as well as West Ham United. But Charlie, your thoughts on the Foxes?
I'm very jealous of a lot of things about them. They've got a very, very good team. They seem to have a very, very good recruitment system. All of the people they seem to bring in, by and large, are very good, and they've pivoted to play even more attractive football. I like Leicester. I think they're doing well, and I think they've got a lot of things to be admirable about for a team who are sort of seen as our rivals.
Yeah, I think they're a brilliant team as well. Every time we do a preview, probably the last two seasons now, because outside the top six, I think they've got the best starting 11. If West Ham's starting 11 was fully fit and Leicester's starting 11 was fully fit and you have to do a combined two, I think there'd be 6 or 7 Leicester players in there. I think they'd have the slight advantage over us. I think we've got the better squad depth. I think our bench is better than Leicester City's. You know, they'll have Okazaki and Mark Albrighton, etc., whereas we'd have Chicharito and one of Lanzini or Nasri, Yarmolenko maybe. But I think Leicester have got a fantastic team and squad. And season-wise, I thought it was very average. But all of a sudden, because Brendan Rodgers has come in, they've hit form at the right time. And now it was always between us, Wolves and Watford who was going to get 7th. Well, Everton and Leicester City have decided to join in the party later on. Charlie, what did you make of the appointment in Brendan Rodgers?
It's bold. I think it's such a hard pivot from what they were doing before that I thought maybe it wasn't fully thought out. But he's someone who's worth taking a risk on, and I think any club he's done at that level, I think that's the perfect level for him to take over. It's a great move for him in that he can look at Leicester and try and build them into something bigger than they are. It's not a club where he's expected to come in and create instant success like it would be at Celtic or at a bigger club than Leicester. So I think it's the perfect role for him, and they seem to have the perfect players for him. A lot of the team he's been picking has been relatively consistent, at least as far as I'm aware, midfield forward at least. And so it seems to be sort of the perfect group of players for him to come in and put his philosophy in, which is a surprise given how different he is to their previous managers.
Yeah, I think it's a perfect appointment for Brendan Rodgers, and I think it's a perfect appointment for Leicester City as well. The reason they didn't like Puel and Ranieri towards the end was performance-based more than results-based. It was a case of we're bored, we want to see better football. And when you look at the players they've got there, Maddison, Demarai Gray, Harvey Barnes, etc., you can understand why they're a bit frustrated if they're not seeing sort of flair, if you like. That team should be creating chances. Brendan Rodgers has come in and they're playing this neat, tidy passing game, if you like, and they're starting to sort of put their foot down on games, dominate them, and they can also play counter-attacking football as well with the players. You know, as a West Ham fan, I'm sort of looking at them this summer thinking, you know, if they get the transfer dealings right, Leicester, they could almost tie up 7th, assuming they then go on and perform, etc. In terms of the personnel they have in the squad, they will have the best team outside the top 6. Apparently, they've got £150 million to spend this summer because the chairman wants to carry on his father's legacy, if you like, want to back their new manager. Chilwell still being linked to Manchester City in a big money move. And if he does go there, Brendan Rodgers has got the perfect replacement for him in Kieran Tierney for half the price. So he's going to sell one for 50 and bring in someone for 25 to replace him. £25 million in a kitty. It's perfect business for him. I think James Forrest might end up at Leicester City as well. I think if there's 2 players he goes for at Celtic, I think that would be another one. It'd be interesting if he goes for him because I do think there's a space at Leicester City. Charlie, will they get 7? Watford are sort of in pole position at the minute because they've still got a game in hand, but it's all to play for, really.
I was looking at the sort of people who would be in that position being them, Watford and Wolves. And I think Leicester are in a very good position in that they're in fantastic form right now. You've mentioned since Rodgers took over, they're, I think, the 3rd or 4th best team in the league since then, points-wise, I guess, even though it's only 6 games, it's still significant. And they're not in any other competitions as well. They've just got the Premier League to concentrate on and only the Premier League. And with the consistency that we're seeing in the performances and in the young, creative, exciting talent they've got, I think they're in a very, very good position to finish either 7th or 8th. And like you say, given the fact that how much unrest there was at the club, given, again, not results, but performances, I think that's a really huge, huge thing for them.
Interesting. Yeah, I think they've got. I think I'd be surprised if they finish lower than 8th. I think it's between them and Watford. Actually, Wolves are going off the boil now. They're sort of going to. I think they're going to do a little bit of West Ham where they sort of go on the beach, if you like. I think that's Wolves' season's over now. Watford finished 7th. They guarantee themselves Europa League football because they're obviously in the FA Cup final, etc. So I think it's between them two. Last question on Leicester City. As always, their individual players, there's quite a few to choose from, but who do you admire / consider to be the danger man for Saturday?
Any attacking player they have, really. Vardy continues to score goals. He just does. I still don't think he's got any technique to it, but he just puts his laces through it and it ends up in the back of the net, and that's what you want from him. Barnes, I think, has been brilliant. First half of the season, he was on loan at, I think, West Brom. And I remember watching one game of theirs and thinking, oh, he looks all right. And then hearing a lot of buzz about him. He came back in and doesn't look out of place for a player who's sort of just stepping into a Premier League first team, doesn't look out of place at all. You've got Yuri Tillmans is such a good signing for them. It pisses me off. It genuinely does to see Leicester City sign like this guy who's been a big thing in European football for so long. And then Leicester go, we're just going to pluck him out of Monaco. Let's calm. Don't worry about it. It's so frustrating. It's so frustrating to see. And then in DD, they've got Pereira on one side, they've got Chilwell on the other. They've got such a good team. But danger men specifically, I'm looking at Barnes and I'm looking at, I guess, Demarai Gray on the other side. I'm looking at Vardy and I'm thinking, mate, our high line, I say it all the time, but our high line with that sort of pace, not good.
Yeah, but Liverpool have got the best fullbacks in the league, in my opinion, as a pair. I think some clubs might have a better individual right back than Leicester, but I think as a pairing, I think Chilwell's best, apart from Robertson, best left back in the league, as simple as that. I think Ndidi, one of the best defensive midfielders. They've now got one of the best centre midfielders alongside him. I think it's huge for Leicester City in the summer. He's £40 million seems to be the price. I think that's looking like a bargain. Every game he plays, that starts to look cheap. To get in someone with that class, and like you said, he's been touted for years as the next big thing. They've got him there. Harvey Barnes is a player I've liked as well. I think he's a bit raw. I think he's unpolished. He's quite erratic when he gets into the final third. I think he shoots a lot when he shouldn't really be shooting. I don't think he's scored yet for Leicester this season. 12 appearances, no goals. If there's something there to mould, though, Rodgers can mould him, and he keeps playing him, so Rodgers can obviously see something in him, and we can all see it. It's obvious there is talent there. He's very direct, very fast, very strong. Vardy needs replacing. Also, James Maddison is sort of continuing and stepping up to sort of his reputation in the Championship. Fantastic players at Leicester City, and it's going to be a difficult game for us. If you're heading there on Saturday and you wish to join us for a beer and a barbecue, you can do on our boats. Kids go free, as they have done all season, and they will do for the last 2 games. You can get your tickets. The link is in the description below. Open from 12 until 7 p.m, and we will see you there. Charlie, onto our side. Now, for the first time in a long, long time, are we going to leave the defence as it is? Masuaku, Ogbonna, Balbuena, and Zabaleta play well at Old Trafford. However, Zabaleta makes one more appearance this season. He's entitled to a 1-year contract extension. West Ham can't really do anything about it.
Yes, the right back position is the one I'm looking at specifically because of that clause. I wouldn't be upset if Zabaleta did stay for another year. I think although there are definite signs of him coming to the end of being able to perform consistently at this level, he's not so far gone that I would be upset if we had him for another year. I suspect that drop will happen within the next year, but if he's here for another year, that at least gives Fredericks and Johnson the likes to at least a bit more time to grow. So I think you can. I think you do. I think they play too well to justify dropping any of them, and having someone like Diop on the bench is just a nice addition, just sitting there pushing the other people. So for me, yeah, I would keep it.
Yeah, I completely agree. I keep the back four the same, really. Ignoring the clause, I thought they did okay. Masuaku had, I think, actually his best game in a West Ham shirt. He's looked good in some games the last couple of seasons, but the one at Old Trafford was a very well all-rounded performance where he looked good defensively, which was important. If Zabaleta wasn't going to play, I'd actually play Ben Johnson for this one, because at the end of the day, he's up against someone who is reasonably inexperienced in Harvey Barnes as well. He's only got, like I said, I think it's 12 games he played for Leicester. It's not that much. So he's up against a youngster as well. So in terms of sort of not that much pressure on him. This is the game to be putting Ben Johnson in for me. The midfield three. Now, Robert Snodgrass has been given a 1-game ban for being a bit naughty and rude to anti-doping officials. However, it is not in place for this weekend because Snodgrass has the right to appeal. So until he has got the written sort of explanation as to why he has been banned, the ban is not in place. So it looks like he'll be missing the Spurs game unless he does appeal, but he is available for this weekend. Now, Charlie, he also played in centre midfield alongside Martin Noble and Declan Rice at Old Trafford. Would you be keeping that as the same as it was?
I would, yeah. I think that's the hardest working midfield we've got, and I think that's the key. Although we do have options in there, I think having the work rate for the rest of the season is more important to me than the only way I would put it in is if Lanzini was available, then I would be giving him the game time just because he needs it in lieu of next season. But for me, the first choice for this week and potentially for the next couple of games would be Snodgrass, Rice, and Noble.
Yeah, I think you've got to keep it the same team as much as possible, really, because there is 2 forced changes at the top of the team, which we'll come on to in a second. Jack Wilshere could be on the bench on Saturday as well, because he was supposed to play for the under-23s on Monday, but he wasn't in the squad, so it looks like he's been wrapped up in cotton wool for Saturday. But I think you've got to stick with them 3 in the middle. And you said there is options. I don't think there is, really. There's only one other person, which is Pedro Obiang, and I don't want to see him. So as far as I'm concerned, it's sort of that's your midfield 3 by default, almost, unless you're going to do something wild and bring in Connor Coventry. Now, the attacking positions, Manuel Lanzini obviously picked up an injury. He's expected to return before the end of the season, but he's supposed to miss 2 games, which means he would only be back for a couple. And Chicharito is injured. Well, he's not injured. He's got an ear infection. So Pellegrini said he will not be playing. However, he has since boarded a plane and gone to Italy. So his ear infection can't be that bad. So, Charlie, what do you do with these 2 positions? Is it straightforward? Marko Navic comes in for Hernandez, and who would you bring in to replace Lanzini? Again, is it quite obvious? Michail Antonio came on at Old Trafford and looked all right.
Yeah, unfortunately, I think it is. We're sort of forced by injury our hand at the moment. As good as I think Antonio looked playing the striker role, sort of playing the leading role, in a home game against a club of our level, I don't want to see that. I also don't think it's how we're going to set up and try. I think that, unfortunately, we're just in this situation where, like you say, I think we need to be consistent in the way that we're picking teams for the rest of the season to gain everything we can before the end of the season. And I think, unfortunately, our injury room is meaning we have to do that. So for me, yeah, it is that straightforward.
Yeah, it's the same with me as well, really. These players start by default unless Pellegrini wants to throw a youngster in. I don't want to see Lucas Perez start. It means you've not really got any other option. Nasri's out for this weekend as well, by the way. So Samir Nasri is going to miss another game through injury. The only other player I'd like to see this weekend at some point is Nathan Holland. I was disappointed he didn't get on against Man United. I thought we were getting joy down the wings at Old Trafford in the first half. I thought, brilliant, we've got a natural winger on the bench. Let's use him. But we didn't. But, we played really well at Old Trafford. We deserved something, at least a point. We arguably deserved the win. We were the better team. But it's going to be a very youthful bench on Saturday for Pellegrini. I think he's going to have Coventry on there, Holland on there. He's probably going to have another couple of kids because the teams aren't. The squad's looking a bit thin on the ground, Charlie. And our depleted squad, Leicester's buzzing form. Are you confident for this one?
I wouldn't say no is the answer, because I think that we only play to our fullest potential against the big teams. I think the teams like this are the ones where we tend to mess up against. I also just look at Leicester's team and I think they are perfectly set up to expose our weaknesses. And it's sort of the striker situation again. Although on our day we can score a lot of goals, our day happens to be when we have, anyone fit up front, which is not something we have the luxury of having at the moment. So I don't think we're going to get absolutely battered or anything like that, but I'm not confident of a 3 points as such.
I'm optimistic. We've played well for the last 135 minutes. Stamford Bridge and Old Trafford have played really well. Deserve something, especially last weekend. The players that are playing, starting the game, are in reasonably good form. The centre-backs are playing really well. Masuaku's just come off a really good performance. Declan Rice. Snodgrass has changed the game at Stamford Bridge, did well at Old Trafford. So we've got some players in good form. The problem is Pellegrini's just got no options, and it won't be very difficult. When I say that, I think me and you pretty much just guessed Leicester City starting 11 as well, to be honest. Between us, it's not that difficult to work out. I suppose the only question is who did play right wing? Does stick with Demarai Gera or they put Mark Albright out there? But Rodgers will know what 11 we're away to play. We all know what Pellegrini's going to do, unless there's a surprise, which I imagine is unlikely. My only concern here is Leicester are very similar to Everton, and Everton tore us apart 3 weeks ago at the London Stadium. And if Leicester do the keep ball, tick it over, etc., they could have a little bit of joy. They're very composed, Leicester. But I watched them against Newcastle last Friday when Newcastle won 1-0 at Leicester. Leicester were poor. They didn't have any idea. There was no creativity despite all those players on the pitch. They weren't creating anything. Newcastle just sat in two banks of four almost, were a bank of four and a bank of five. Said, what are you going to do? And Leicester City's answer was, well, can you come out a little bit so we can play in behind your midfield? And the answer was also going to be no. So they struggled a bit, Leicester. Barnes and Maddison were sort of taking pot shots at the goal, etc. But Newcastle were comfortable, I thought. So we can frustrate Leicester. There's opportunities to be there. We're on form. So, Charlie, may I have your score prediction, please?
As much as I agree with you that I think the truth is that Newcastle play is about as opposite to us as we do, and we don't seem to change it up that much depending on who we face. I'm confident that we won't get. I'm confident it would at least be close, but I do think Leicester have enough to edge it. I would say 2-1 to Leicester.
I'm going to say 1-1. I think it'll be hopefully an entertaining game, but both teams are really, really good. They're really good teams. This one, so I think Leicester's a very difficult opponent. Good forward, good manager. I'm going to start on defence for this one and say 1-1. And it's not a bad point at the end of the day. We've lost 3 games in a row now, so we do need to sort of stop that somehow because we've got Spurs away next, which we will be motivated for, but we do need to sort of get something on the board, and we don't really want the season to fizzle out because all of a sudden, if we lose on Saturday, all of a sudden, instead of looking up to 7th and 8th, we're going to look behind us thinking Crystal Palace are, coming up behind us. We could finish the lowest 15, so it's important that we don't lose on Saturday. So I'm going to go 1-1 anyway. I think we'll do okay. It's just that we just don't have that much options. Pellegrini doesn't have that much options. There's only so much you can do. But anyway, join us on the boats for Saturday if you wish, before, or after, or both. Drop a like on the video if you've enjoyed it. Subscribe if you're new around here. We'll be back on Saturday with our build-up show, which will be on the Fordham channel. Link is in the description. And we'll have our review, which will be on this channel straight after. And there's also been plenty of videos going up in the last week or so. We've got Abbott's vlog from the West Ham Women's FA Cup semi-final win, which is really, really good. So go watch it. It's definitely got the feel. It's got a happy feel factor, doesn't it, Charlie? It's got the fun factor in there.
It's got a very Avid feel to it as well. If you don't know who Avid is, you'll learn very, very quickly watching that video. Yeah,
we'll put the video on the screen right now. It'll be here somewhere. Click on that and go watch it. It's really good. Your time goes fast. And then, of course, we've got the Hammerette time video, which is on this channel with Chelsea and Soph, the Man United fan, giving their opinions on it. But anyway, Charlie, I will see you Saturday, maybe.
Yep, see you then.
Take care, and we'll see you soon. Thanks for joining us.